Hi guys, I'm making this video to educate you on technology that will without a doubt be implemented in the very near future. I'm taking the time to make this video because I've been watching and learning over the years and I think you will benefit from this information to get you up to speed on what is taking place. The topics that I'm going to be going through is blockchain, cryptocurrency, smart contracts, mining, Bitcoin versus banks, Coinbase, and wallets. Let's start with blockchain. Blockchain is a specific type of database. It differs from a typical database in the way it stores information. Blockchains store data in blocks that are then chained together. As new data comes in, it is entered into a fresh block. Once the block is filled with data, it is chained into the previous block, which makes the data chain together in a chronological order. Different types of information can be stored on a blockchain, but the most common use so far has been a ledger for transactions. In Bitcoin's case, blockchain is used in a decentralized way so that no single person or groups has control, rather all users collectively retain control. Decentralized blockchains are immutable, which means that the data entered is irreversible. For Bitcoin, this means that transactions are permanently recorded and viewable to anyone. So check out this quick video. It should give you a little more insight on what blockchains are.
What constitutes a block? Well, a block, because it's a record, will obviously have data inside it. For instance, it might have just a string of words, hello world. Then it will have a value, which is called a previous hash. And then it will have a value, which is its own hash. And what the hash is like a fingerprint of this block. It's like taking the first two elements, the data and the previous hash, and finding the number which represents that data. So a shortened version of that data, specifically it's 64 characters long. The best way to think about it is a digital hash is like a fingerprint of some amount of data. So the block here has its own hash, and the previous hash, which is contained within the block as reference, is actually the hash of the block that came before it. So here we have block number 1. It's also called the Genesis block in a blockchain, the first block. It's called the Genesis block because after the blockchain is initialized, that block will always stay block number 1 forever and ever. This is where the blockchain originated from. We have some data in it. It doesn't have a previous hash inside this block because this is the Genesis block. It's the only block that wouldn't have a previous hash. So I'm just representing this with all zeros. And then it will have its own hash. Again, for now, let's think of hash as a fingerprint. And then there is block number 2, and block number 2 also has some data. This time it does have a previous hash, and it has its own hash. As you can see, the previous hash of block number 2 is exactly identical to block number 1's hash, and that is where the link comes from. That is why a blockchain is called a chain or a blockchain, because the blocks are cryptographically linked with each other through these hashes. This is conceptually how it works. Every block has its own fingerprint and also references the fingerprint of the previous block. So if anything were to change in block number 1, if someone were to tamper with its data, its fingerprint or hash would change, and it would no longer match block 2's previous hash fingerprint. Again, block number 3, data, it's got the previous hash, it's got its own hash, and it's linked to the previous block, and so on. So again, if anyone were to tamper with any data in the blocks, the chain would not match and the blockchain would be invalid and show that there is something wrong. That's why they say the blocks are cryptographically linked together. Okay, so that is a blockchain at a very high level. There's many more concepts to blockchains, things like mining, distributed peer-to-peer network, consensus protocol, immutable ledger, and hash cryptography. If you would like to learn a bit more on blockchains from the original source where the idea first came up, I highly recommend looking at the paper How to Timestamp a Digital Document. The link is right here.
How is blockchain used? As we now know, blocks on Bitcoin's blockchain store data about monetary transactions. But it turns out that blockchain is actually a reliable way of storing data about other types of transactions as well. Some companies that have already incorporated blockchain include Walmart, Pfizer, AIG, Siemens, Unilever, and a host of others. For example, IBM has created its Food Trust blockchain to trace the journey that food products take to get to its locations. Why do this? The food industry has seen countless outbreaks of E. coli, Salmonella, Listeria, as well as hazardous materials being accidentally introduced into foods. In the past, it has taken weeks to find the source of these outbreaks or the cause of the sickness from what people are eating. Using blockchain gives brands the ability to track a food's product's route from its origin through each stop it makes, and finally its delivery. If a food is found to be contaminated, then it can be traced all the way back through each stop to its origin. Not only that, but these companies can also now see everything else it may have come in contact with, allowing the identification of the problem to occur far sooner, potentially saving lives. This is one example of blockchains in practice, but there are many other forms of blockchain implementation. Blockchain currency. Blockchain forms the bedrock for cryptocurrencies such as Bitcoin. The US dollar is controlled by the Federal Reserve. Under this central authority system, a user's data and currency are technically at the whim of their bank or government. If a user's bank is hacked, the client's private information is at risk. If the client's bank collapses or they live in a country with an unstable government, the value of their currency may be at risk. In 2008, some of the banks that ran out of money were bailed out partially using taxpayer money. These are the worries out of which Bitcoin was first conceived and developed. By spreading its operations across a network of computers, blockchain allows Bitcoin and other cryptocurrencies to operate without the need for a central authority. This not only reduces risk, but it also eliminates many of the processing and transaction fees. It can also give those in countries with unstable currencies or financial infrastructures a more stable currency with more applications and a wider network of individuals and institutions they can do business with, both domestically and internationally. Using cryptocurrency wallets for savings accounts or as a means of payment is especially profound for those who have no state identification. Some countries may be war-torn or have governments that lack any real infrastructure to provide identification. Citizens of such countries may not have access to savings or brokerage accounts and therefore no way to safely store wealth. Blockchain healthcare. Healthcare providers can leverage blockchain to securely store their patients' medical records. When a medical record is generated and signed, it can be written into the blockchain, which provides patients with the proof and confidence that the record cannot be changed. These personal health records could be encoded and stored on the blockchain with a private key so that they're accessible by certain individuals, thereby ensuring privacy. Blockchain records of property. If you have ever spent time in your local recorder's office, you will know that the process of recording property rights is both burdensome and inefficient. Today, a physical deed must be delivered to a government employee at the local recording office, where it is manually entered into the county's central database and public index. In the case of a property dispute, claims to the property must be reconciled with the public index. This process is not just costly and time-consuming, it is also riddled with human error, where each inaccuracy makes tracking property ownership less efficient. Blockchain has the potential to eliminate the need for scanning documents and tracking down physical files in a local recording office. If property ownership is stored and verified on the blockchain, owners can trust that their deed is accurate and permanently recorded. In war-torn countries or areas that have little to no government or financial infrastructure, and certainly no recorder's office, it can be nearly impossible to prove ownership of a property. If a group of people living in such area is able to leverage blockchain, transparent and clear timelines of property ownership could be established. Blockchain voting. A voting system could work such that each citizen of a country would be issued a single cryptocurrency or token. Each candidate would then be given a specific wallet address, and the voters would send their token or crypto to whichever candidate's address they wish to vote for. The transparent and traceable nature of blockchain would eliminate the need for human vote counting as well as the ability of bad actors to tamper with physical ballots. Blockchain transparency. Most blockchains are entirely open source software. This means that anyone and everyone can view its code. This gives auditors the ability to review cryptocurrencies like Bitcoin for security. This also means that there is no real authority on who owns Bitcoin's code or how it's edited. Because of this, anyone can suggest changes or upgrades to the system. If a majority of the network users agree that the new version of the code with the upgrade is sound and worthwhile, then Bitcoin can be updated. So let's move on to cryptocurrency now. A cryptocurrency is a new form of digital asset based on a network that is distributed across a large number of computers. This decentralized structure allows them to exist outside the control of governments and central authorities. The word cryptocurrency is derived from the encryption techniques which are used to secure the network. Blockchains, which are the organizational methods for ensuring the integrity of transactional data, is an essential component of many cryptocurrencies. Many experts believe that blockchain and related technology will disrupt many industries, including finance and law. So let's look at another video on cryptocurrency.
Today, cryptocurrencies have become a global phenomenon known by most people but understood by few. In 2020, you will have a hard time finding a major bank, accounting firm, software company, or government that hasn't researched cryptocurrencies or started a blockchain project. Beyond the noise and the press releases, many people often fail to understand the basic concepts. Let's walk through the whole story. What are cryptocurrencies? Satoshi invented Bitcoin in 2008 as a peer-to-peer electronic cash system. To realize digital cash, you need a payment network with accounts, balances, and transactions. One major problem every payment network has to solve is to prevent double spending. That is, to prevent one entity from spending the same amount twice. Usually this is done by a central server who keeps records of all the balances. In a decentralized network, you don't have this server, so you need every single entity of the network to do this job. Every peer on the network needs to have a full list of all the transactions to check if future transactions are valid or an attempt to double spend. But how can these entities keep a consensus about these records? If the peers on the network disagree about one single minor balance, everything breaks. They need absolute consensus. Nobody knew how to achieve this until Satoshi proved it was possible. Cryptocurrencies are a key part of the solution. To illustrate this, we'll look at the transactions on the network. A transaction is a file that says John gives X Bitcoin to Jane and is signed digitally by John. Once signed, the transaction is broadcast to the network, sent from one peer to every other peer. This is standard P2P technology. After a specific amount of time, the transaction gets confirmed. Only miners can confirm transactions. This is their job in a cryptocurrency network. They take transactions, stamp them as legitimate, and spread them on the network. After a transaction is confirmed by a miner, every node has to add it to its database. It has to become part of the blockchain. For this job, the miners are rewarded with cryptocurrency. For example, Bitcoins. Anybody can be a miner. They just need to use some of their computer's power to qualify for the task. Every miner competes to solve a cryptographic puzzle. After finding a solution, a miner can confirm the transaction and add it to the blockchain. As an incentive to do this, they then receive a payment from the network in the form of cryptocurrency. In this way, a network of independent actors are economically incentivized to maintain the legitimacy of the transaction history. So that's the gist of it. Cryptocurrencies are the key to the complex digital cash problem that Satoshi solved. How to maintain integrity and consensus across independent and potentially malicious actors. Cryptocurrencies are essentially the monetary incentive offered to anyone willing to keep the network secure.
Now let's talk about smart contracts. A smart contract is a self-executing contract with the terms of the agreement between the buyer and seller being directly written into lines of code. The code and the agreements contained therein exist across a distributed, decentralized blockchain network. The code controls the execution, and transactions are trackable and irreversible. Smart contracts permit trusted transactions and agreements to be carried out among anonymous parties without the need for central authority, legal system, or external enforcement mechanisms. While blockchain technology has come to be thought of primarily as the foundation for Bitcoin, it has evolved far beyond underpinning the virtual currency. So let's take a deeper look at smart contracts.
What is a smart contract? Smart contracts are just like contracts in the real world. The only difference is that they are completely digital. In fact, a smart contract is actually a tiny computer program that is stored inside of a blockchain. Let's take a look at an example to understand how smart contracts work. You probably are familiar with Kickstarter, the large fundraising platform. Product teams can go to Kickstarter, create a project, set a funding goal, and start collecting money from others who believe in the idea. Kickstarter is essentially a third party that sits in between the product team and its supporters. This means that both of them need to trust Kickstarter to handle their money correctly. If the project gets successfully funded, the product team expects Kickstarter to give them their money. On the other hand, supporters want their money to go to the project if it was funded or to get a refund when it hasn't reached its goals. Both the product team and its supporters have to trust Kickstarter, but with smart contracts, we can build a similar system that doesn't require a third party like Kickstarter. So let's create a smart contract for this. We can program the smart contract so that it holds all the received funds until a certain goal is reached. The supporters of the project now transfer their money to the smart contract. If the project gets fully funded, the contract automatically passes the money to the creator of the project. And if the project fails to meet these goals, money automatically goes back to the supporters. And because smart contracts are stored inside a blockchain, everything is completely distributed. With this technique, nobody is in control of the money. But wait a minute, why should we trust a smart contract? Well, because smart contracts are stored on a blockchain, they inherit some interesting properties. They are immutable and they are distributed. Being immutable means that once a smart contract is created, it can never be changed again. No one can go behind your back and tamper with the code of your contract. And being distributed means that the output of your contract is validated by everyone on the network. So a single person cannot force the contract to release the funds because other people in the network will spot this attempt and mark it as invalid. Tampering with smart contracts becomes almost impossible. Smart contracts can be applied to many different things, not just crowdfunding. Banks, for example, could use it to issue loans or to offer automatic payments. Insurance companies could use it to process certain claims, and postal companies could use it for payment on delivery. For example, let's say you're selling your house. Today you would use a broker to mediate between you and the buyer. When the buyer sends funds to the broker then sends them the deed to the house. But these brokers take up to a 5% fee. That amounts to a ton of money. Instead, you could use a smart contract as a broker. You send the deed to the smart contract, and the buyer sends the funds to the contract. The contract then executes automatically, sending you the money and the home buyer the deed. And instead of costing you a 5% fee, it would barely cost you anything. So now you might wonder, where and how can I use smart contracts? Well, right now, there's a handful of blockchains who support smart contracts, but the biggest one is Ethereum. It was specifically created and designed to support smart contracts. Smart contracts can be programmed in a special programming language called Solidity. This language was specifically created for Ethereum and uses a syntax that resembles JavaScript. It's worth noting that Bitcoin also has support for smart contracts, although it's a lot more limited when compared to Ethereum. So now you know what smart contracts are and the problems they solve.
All right, now let's talk about mining. You can mine almost any type of coin. It doesn't have to be just Bitcoin, although Bitcoin and Ethereum are very lucrative to mine. By mining, you can earn cryptocurrency without having to put down money for it. Bitcoin miners receive Bitcoin as a reward for completing blocks of verified transactions which are added to the blockchain. Mining rewards are paid to the miner who discovers a solution to a complex hashing puzzle first. And the probability that a participant will be the one to discover the solution is related to the portion of the total mining power on the network. You either need a GPU, graphics processing unit, or an application-specific integrated circuit, ASIC, in order to set up a mining rig. Now let's get into Bitcoin versus banks. So on the left, we have features, then banks, then Bitcoin. So open hours, 9 to 5 for banks, and Bitcoin has no set hours, open 24/7, 365 days a year. Transaction fees. For banks, card payments, this fee varies based upon the card and is not paid by the user directly. Fees are paid to the payment processors by stores and are usually charged per transaction. The effect of this fee can sometimes make the cost of goods and services rise. ACH transfers can cost up to $3 for external accounts. Wire transfers can cost up to 25 domestic and 45 international. For Bitcoin, Bitcoin has variable transaction fees determined by miners and users. This fee can range from $0 and $50, but users have the ability to determine how much a fee they are willing to pay. This creates an open marketplace where if the user sets their fee too low, their transaction may not be processed. Transaction speed. For banks, card payments is 24 to 48 hours, checks 24 to 72 hours, ACH 24 to 48 hours, wire 24 hours unless international. Bank transfers are typically not processed on weekends or bank holidays. Bitcoin, however, Bitcoin transactions can take as little as seconds and as much as over an hour depending on network congestion. Ease of transfers. Government-issued identification, a bank account, and a mobile phone are the minimum requirements for digital transfers. For Bitcoin, an internet connection and a mobile phone are the minimum requirements. Privacy. For banks, bank account information is stored on the bank's private servers and held by the client. Bank account privacy is limited to how secure the bank's servers are and how well the individual user secures their own information. If the bank's servers were to be compromised, then the individual's account would be as well. For Bitcoin, Bitcoin can be as private as the user wishes. All Bitcoin is traceable, but it is impossible to establish who has ownership of Bitcoin. If it was purchased on a Know Your Customer exchange, then the Bitcoin is directly tied to the holder of the KYC exchange account. Approved transaction. For banks, banks reserve the right to deny transactions for a variety of reasons. Banks also reserve the right to freeze accounts. If your bank notices purchases in unusual locations or for an unusual item, they can be denied. For Bitcoin, the Bitcoin network itself does not dictate how Bitcoin is used in any shape or form. Users can transact Bitcoin however they see fit, but should also adhere to guidelines of their country or region. Account seizures. For banks, due to KYC laws, governments can easily track people's bank accounts and seize the assets within them for a variety of reasons. For Bitcoin, if Bitcoin is used anonymously, governments would have a hard time tracking it down to seize it. Security. For banks, assuming the client practices solid internet security measures like using secure passwords and two-factor authentication, a bank's account's information is only as secure as the bank's server that contains the client's account information. For Bitcoin, the larger the Bitcoin network grows, the more secure it gets. The level of security a Bitcoin holder has with their own Bitcoin is entirely up to them. For this reason, it is recommended that the people use cold storage for larger quantities of Bitcoin. Know your customer rules. Bank accounts and other banking products require know your customer procedures. This means it's legally required for banks to record a customer's identification prior to opening an account. For Bitcoin, anyone or anything can participate in Bitcoin's network with no identification. In theory, even an entity equipped with artificial intelligence can participate. All right, let's move on to my favorite exchange, Coinbase. Coinbase is one of the most popular cryptocurrency exchanges in the world, based in the US and operating at varying capacities in 103 other countries, including the likes of the UK, Mexico, and Spain. A cryptocurrency exchange, as the name suggests, functions as a middleman in the cryptocurrency market, providing a platform for users to buy and sell different coins. Exchanges vary on factors ranging from the type of coins it trades, whether it allows for purchases with fiat money, transaction fees, and processing times. For those looking to purchase the most popular cryptocurrencies with fiat money, Coinbase remains one of the most secure and used options out there. It features an easy-to-use interface that makes it great for those looking to get into buying and trading cryptocurrencies for the first time. Now let's take a look at a video about Coinbase.
With over $540 million in funding, supporting 102 countries, and serving over 30 million customers, Coinbase is one of the biggest cryptocurrency companies around. Founded in 2012, Coinbase is a fully regulated, licensed Bitcoin exchange. Coinbase.com allows you to buy and sell Bitcoin, as well as over 20 other cryptocurrencies. I consider Coinbase's buying process the easiest and fastest available. Coinbase supports several payment methods, including wire transfer, debit card, and credit card. Coinbase's fee structure consists of a 0.5% premium over the market price, plus a transaction fee relevant to the amount transacted. Overall, I find that Coinbase offers a competitive fee structure when compared to similar alternatives. All digital currency held online by Coinbase is insured. If you're a United States resident, your Coinbase USD wallet is covered by the FDIC up to a maximum of $250,000, which is a benefit you won't find in most any online service.
All right, now let's talk about wallets. A cryptocurrency wallet is a secure digital wallet used to store, send, and receive digital currency like Bitcoin. Most coins have an official wallet. In order to use cryptocurrency, you'll need to use a cryptocurrency wallet. Some wallets are built for a single cryptocurrency, some can be used for more than one coin, some wallets you'll manage yourself, and some, like those found on exchanges, will be custodial. There's a range of wallet types to choose from, and let's take a look at this video.
In order to send and receive cryptocurrency, you need a blockchain account. It kind of works like your email account. You have an email address, let's say ben.doomsa@what.com. That's your email address. That's all you need for people to send you emails. The cryptocurrency version of your email address is called your public key, or more commonly, your public address. Your public address is a long random string of numbers and letters, and it's where people can send you cryptocurrency. Though they look different, your public address works just like your email address. There's another part to your email account, your password. Now, before you can send anyone an email with your email account, you first have to log in with your password. If someone got access to that password, they could just send emails out of your account. It's extremely important to keep your password safe. The cryptocurrency version of your password is called your private key. And just like your public address, it's a long random string of numbers and letters. Your private key allows you to send funds from your public address. It should be kept safe at all times. It is what allows you to control your funds. Only you should have access to your private key. To recap, your email account has two parts, an email address and a password. Your blockchain account has two parts, your public address and your private key. So what then is a wallet? In the cryptocurrency realm, a wallet is a piece of software or hardware device that stores your private key for you and makes it really easy to send and receive cryptocurrency. Instead of memorizing your long private key, your wallet does that for you. The security of your wallet is essentially the security of your private key, and the security of your private key is essentially the security of your cryptocurrency. So, the security of your wallet is the security of your money. As a cryptocurrency user, you have a lot of different wallet options. Some are more convenient, some are free, some cost money, some are safer, and so on. If you already own cryptocurrency and aren't familiar with wallets, you might be wondering why you haven't had to deal with a wallet. Well, when you make an account on a cryptocurrency exchange, the exchange makes a wallet for you on their servers. Having your money on an exchange account is easy, but these exchanges have been hacked in the past. It's safest if you move your funds away from the exchange account onto a wallet that only you have control over. There are many different types of cryptocurrency wallets that you can choose from, including desktop applications, phone applications, and USB hardware devices. Which one you pick will depend on how much cryptocurrency you're storing and how often you plan on using it.